Remember when 7 riders, one desperate village, and a mission that turned a simple Western into a Hollywood legend? The Magnificent Seven gave audiences courage, sacrifice, and unforgettable gunslingers. But outside the dusty trails and blazing gunfights, time wrote a much sadder ending for the cast. Some disappeared into the shadows, and some stories ended in ways that hit way harder than any final shootout. Today, we look back at the Magnificent Seven cast, then and now, and remember the stars we. Britt was played by James Coburn at the age of 31. Tall, quiet, and dangerously calm, Britt became the knife-throwing gunman who did not need many words to prove how deadly he was. While some men in the film carried their courage loudly, Britt carried his in silence. He watched, waited, and moved only when it mattered. James Coburn passed away in 2002 at the age of 74. After the Magnificent Seven, he built a long career around that same cool screen presence, appearing in westerns, thrillers, and action films before later winning an Academy Award for Affliction. That late career Oscar showed how much depth had always been behind his relaxed, sharp-edged style. Britt worked because Coburn understood the power of doing less. One look, one pause, one sudden movement with a knife. That was enough. In a film about courage and sacrifice, he gave the story its quietest kind of danger, and one of the Seven's most memorable shadows. Hilario was played by Jorge Martinez de Hoyos at the age of 39. As one of the villagers fighting to protect his home, Hilario brought fear, dignity, and real human weight to the story behind the gunman. He was not chasing glory or legend. He was a man trying to save his family, his land, and the little piece his village still had left. Jorge Martinez de Hoyos passed away in 1997 at the age of 77. In Mexican cinema, he was respected for performances that felt grounded and honest, and that same quality helped Hilario feel like a real man, rather than just part of the scenery. His presence gave the village a face, a voice, and a reason for the audience to care. Hilario reminds viewers that the Magnificent Seven was never only about the men with guns. It was also about the people who had almost nothing left, yet still found the courage to ask for help. Through him, the villagers' fear and hope became just as important as the gunfighters' final stand. Old Man was played by Vladimir Sokolov at the age of 70. Frail in body but strong in spirit, he became the village elder who understood what fear had done to his people. His words carried the weight of someone who had seen enough suffering to know that survival sometimes demanded courage from even the poorest men. Vladimir Sokolov passed away in 1962 at the age of 72. He built an international acting career across Europe and Hollywood, often playing older men whose faces seemed to carry whole histories. In The Magnificent Seven, that lived-in quality made the old man feel like more than a supporting figure. His role gave the village its conscience. While the younger men hesitated, he reminded them that hunger and fear could become worse than death. In a film full of gunfighters, the old man's strength came from wisdom, not weapons. Vin Tanner was played by Steve McQueen at the age of 29. Cool, watchful, and relaxed even when danger was close, Vin became the kind of Western drifter who could say more with a glance than most men could with a speech. His calm confidence gave the Seven a sharp, modern edge. Steve McQueen passed away in 1980 at the age of 50. After The Magnificent Seven, he became one of Hollywood's defining stars of the 1960s and 1970s, with films like Bullet, The Great Escape, and The Thomas Crown Affair, turning him into a symbol of effortless screen cool. Vin worked because McQueen never seemed to be trying too hard. He leaned back, watched the room, and let the danger come to him. In a film filled with strong personalities, his quiet swagger made him impossible to ignore. Harry Luck was played by Brad Dexter at the age of 43. Confident, practical, and always looking for the angle, Harry joined the Seven with one eye on profit and the other on survival. He brought a different kind of energy to the group, less noble at first, but still dangerous when the bullets started flying. Brad Dexter passed away in 2002 at the age of 85. His career often placed him in tough supporting roles, and off-screen, he was remembered for his close connection to Hollywood figures of the era, including helping save Frank Sinatra from drowning during a film shoot in Hawaii. Harry's story matters because he was not driven by pure heroism. He wanted treasure, reward, some reason the risk would make sense. But when the final fight came, he still stood with the others, proving that even a man chasing luck could find a little honor. Petra was played by Rosenda Monteros at the age of 24. Young, proud, and caught between fear and hope, Petra brought a human softness to a film filled with gunmen, dust, and violence. She was not written as just a romantic figure beside Chico. She represented the life the village was trying to protect. Ordinary, fragile, and still full of feeling even under Calvera's shadow. Rosenda Monteros passed away in 2018 at the age of 83. In Mexican cinema and television, she built a long career with roles that often carried warmth, strength, and quiet emotion. For international audiences, The Magnificent Seven became one of the films that introduced her face and presence beyond Mexico, placing her inside one of the most famous westerns ever made. Petra gave the story a different kind of stake. While the seven men carried guns and prepared for death, she carried the future that might come after the violence ended. Through her connection with Chico, the film showed that courage was not only found in the final gunfight, sometimes it was found in choosing to keep living. Sotero was played by Rico Alanís at the age of 40. As one of the villagers living under Calvera's threat, Sotero carried the tired fear of a man who had watched his home pushed too far. He was not a gunfighter, and not a hero, in the traditional Western sense, but his presence helped show what violence does to ordinary people when they have no power left to bargain with. Rico Alanís passed away in 2015 at the age of 95. Across decades in film and television, he appeared in many westerns, crime stories, and adventure roles, often bringing a grounded presence to characters shaped by danger, hardship, and survival. His face belonged naturally to the dusty border worlds that classic Hollywood returned to, again and again. Sotero helped give the village its emotional weight. In The Magnificent Seven, the final stand only matters because the people being defended feel real. Every worried look, every frightened silence, and every villager willing to risk a little hope made the sacrifice of the seven feel earned. Villager was played by Natividad Vacío at the age of 47. Though his role was small, his presence belonged to the heart of the story, a community trapped between fear, hunger, and the choice to fight back. In a Western built around legendary gunmen, characters like him reminded viewers that the real suffering belonged to the people who could not simply ride away. Natividad Vacío passed away in 1996, at the age of 84. Mexican and American audiences saw him across many westerns and television roles, where his face became part of the borderland worlds Hollywood often recreated on screen. He brought a natural authenticity to small roles that needed to feel lived in rather than polished. His character may not carry a famous name, but he helps carry the film's purpose. The Magnificent Seven works because the village feels worth saving, not because every villager has a long speech. Faces like Vacío's gave that world its truth. Quiet, worn down, but still hoping someone would stand with them. Calvera was played by Eli Wallach at the age of 44. Ruthless, theatrical, and almost charming in his cruelty, Calvera became the bandit leader who gave the seven their reason to fight. He was not just a simple villain riding in from the hills. He carried himself like a man who believed fear was natural, power was earned by force, and the village existed only because he allowed it to survive. Eli Wallach passed away in 2014 at the age of 98. His career stretched across stage, film, and television, but Western fans forever connect him with unforgettable outlaws and survivors. A few years after The Magnificent Seven, he gave another legendary performance as Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, cementing his place in Western history. Calvera worked because Wallach gave him personality, not just menace. He smiled, bargained, threatened, and explained himself like a man who saw the world clearly, even if that world was brutal. Without a villain this alive, the courage of the seven would not have felt nearly as sharp. Bernardo O'Reilly was played by Charles Bronson at the age of 38. Tough, weathered, and carrying the sadness of a man who had seen too much, Bernardo became one of the seven's most quietly human figures. He had the look of a fighter, but his scenes with the village children revealed something gentler beneath the hard exterior. Charles Bronson passed away in 2003 at the age of 81. After The Magnificent Seven, he became one of cinema's toughest action stars, later known for films like Death Wish, The Mechanic, and Once Upon a Time in the West. His screen image grew harder over time, but Bernardo showed early on that Bronson could bring warmth without losing strength. Bernardo's death remains one of the film's most emotional moments because the children saw him not as a hired gun, but as a hero, In a story full of men trying to decide what their lives are worth, Bernardo found meaning in protecting people who had almost nothing to give him back. Miguel was played by John A. Alonzo at the age of 26. As one of the young villagers, Miguel helped show the fear and pressure facing a community trapped under Calvera's control. His role was not built on big speeches, but on the feeling that the village was filled with real people watching their future slip away unless someone dared to stand up. John A. Alonzo passed away in 2001 at the age of 66. His later career took a remarkable turn behind the camera, where he became an acclaimed cinematographer. He worked on major films including Chinatown and Scarface, giving him a legacy far beyond his early acting appearance in this Western. Miguel is a reminder that some faces in the Magnificent Seven carried more history than viewers knew at the time. On screen, he was part of the village being defended. In later years, Alonzo helped shape the look of American cinema itself, trading a small role in front of the camera for a powerful career behind it. Lee was played by Robert Vaughn at the age of 27. Elegant, haunted, and far more fragile than he first appeared, Lee brought a different kind of tension to the Seven. He was a gunman with skill and reputation, but also a man quietly fighting fear, doubt, and the possibility that his courage had already left him. Robert Vaughn passed away in 2016, at the age of 83. After The Magnificent Seven, he became a major television star through The Man from UNCLL, where his polished style and cool intelligence made him one of the defining screen faces of the 1960s. His career later stretched across film, television, and stage for decades. Lee's story gave the film one of its most human shadows. While other men rode toward danger with confidence, he carried shame in silence. His final return to the fight mattered, because it was not just about saving the village, it was about proving to himself that he still had courage left. Henry was played by Val Avery at the age of 35. Rough, suspicious, and shaped by the hard edges of frontier life, he belonged to the kind of world where men measured each other quickly, and trust was never given for free. Even in a smaller role, his presence added grit to the dusty world around the Seven. Val Avery passed away in 2009 at the age of 85. Across his long career, he became one of those unforgettable character actors who could walk into a scene and immediately make it feel tougher. Crime dramas, westerns, and streetwise roles suited his blunt face and hard-edged delivery. Henry's importance comes from the texture he adds to the film. The Magnificent Seven is remembered for its heroes, but its world works because every side character feels like he has lived through dust, danger, and bad choices. Avery helped give that world another rough corner. Chamley was played by Whit Bissell at the age of 50. Nervous, cautious, and more concerned with safety than courage, Chamley gave the film an early glimpse of the fear that often surrounds violence. He was the kind of man who understood trouble was coming and wanted no part of it. Whit Bissell passed away in 1996 at the age of 86. Classic film and television fans may remember him from a wide range of science fiction, horror, and western roles, including I Was a Teenage Werewolf and The Time Tunnel. His face became familiar to audiences who grew up with mid-century genre entertainment. Chamley helped set the tone before the Seven became legends. His fear made sense in a world where helping the wrong people could get a man killed. By showing that hesitation, the film made the courage of those who chose to stand and fight feel even stronger. Robert was played by Bing Russell at the age of 34. Steady, rough around the edges, and very much at home in the Western world, he added another face to the dangerous frontier surrounding the Seven. His presence helped fill the film with men who looked like they belonged to a land shaped by dust, risk, and sudden violence. Bing Russell passed away in 2003 at the age of 76. Beyond his acting career, many fans know him as the father of Kurt Russell. But he also built his own strong place in television Western history. He later became closely associated with Bonanza, where his familiar face fit naturally into another classic frontier world. Robert may not be one of the names viewers remember first, but roles like his helped make the film feel alive beyond the main gunman. In a Western, the background matters. Every hard stare, every dusty street, and every side character helps create the world the heroes must ride through. Chico was played by Horst Buchholz at the age of 26. Young, proud, restless, and desperate to prove himself, Chico brought fire to the Seven. Unlike the older gunman, he was still chasing the idea of what a man should be, caught between boyish arrogance, real fear, and the need to earn a place among legends. Horst Buchholz passed away in 2003 at the age of 69. A German actor with international appeal, he became known as the German James Dean early in his career, carrying a mix of intensity, beauty, and rebellion that made him stand out in European and Hollywood films alike. Chico gave the film its clearest sense of youth. He wanted the glory of being a gunfighter, but The Village showed him something deeper: love, belonging, and a life beyond proving himself with a weapon. His choice to stay behind made his journey one of the film's most hopeful endings. Wallace was played by Robert J. Wilkie at the age of 45. Hard-faced, dangerous, and built for trouble, Wallace belonged to the kind of Western world where a man's expression could feel like a warning. He brought menace without needing to take over the story, the kind of presence that made every confrontation feel less safe. Robert J. Wilkie passed away in 1989 at the age of 74. Across decades of westerns and crime dramas, he became a familiar screen heavy, often playing gunmen, outlaws, and tough men who seemed born to stand on the wrong side of the law. His sharp features made him instantly believable in rough company. Wallace added another hard edge to the film's landscape. The Magnificent Seven needed more than heroes and villagers. It needed a world full of men who made violence feel ordinary. Wilkie gave that world a face: cold, watchful, and ready for a fight. Gunman at Boot Hill was played by Jim Davis at the age of 51. Tough, weathered, and carrying the hard look of a man used to violence, he fit naturally into the dangerous world surrounding the Seven. Even in a brief role, Davis brought the kind of Western presence that made a dusty street feel ready to explode. Jim Davis passed away in 1981 at the age of 71. Long after The Magnificent Seven, many television fans knew him as Jock Ewing on Dallas, a role that gave him a new place in American pop culture. Before that, he had already spent years building a career in westerns, where his rugged face and strong voice felt right at home. His role here may be small, but it belongs to the film's rough frontier texture. In a story about men who choose to stand and fight, every gunman in the background helps remind viewers how cheap life could be in that world, and how much courage it took to face it. Santos was played by Valentin de Vargas at the age of 25. As one of Calvera's henchmen, he brought youthful danger to the bandit side of the story, the kind of restless violence that made the village's fear feel justified. Valentin de Vargas passed away in 2018 at the age of 83. His career included many film and television appearances, and classic movie fans may also remember him from Touch of Evil, where he appeared in another tense, borderland story filled with suspicion and menace. Santos helped give Calvera's gang more than just numbers. Faces like his made the threat feel immediate, unpredictable, and close enough to reach the village at any moment. In a western built on pressure before the gunfight, that danger mattered. Calvera henchman was played by Larry Duran at the age of 35. Hard, silent, and dangerous in the background, he helped fill Calvera's gang with the rough faces that made the villagers' fear believable. Larry Duran passed away in 2002 at the age of 76. He worked for decades as both an actor and stunt performer, often appearing in westerns, adventure films, and action scenes, where physical presence mattered as much as dialogue. His character shows how much atmosphere depends on the men around the villain. Calvera needed a gang that looked capable of violence, and Duran helped create that threat with stillness, movement, and the kind of face that belonged in a gunfight. Front office clerk was played by Victor French at the age of 26. Young, steady, and placed inside the rough edges of the town, his small role helped add another layer to the world surrounding the Seven. In a western like this, even brief faces mattered, because every clerk, gunman, villager, and bystander helped make the frontier feel lived in and dangerous. Victor French passed away in 1989, at the age of 54. Years after The Magnificent Seven, television audiences came to know him much better from Little House on the Prairie and Highway to Heaven, where his warm, rugged presence made him a familiar face in American homes. Looking back, his appearance here feels like an early glimpse of an actor who would later become known for much more heartfelt roles. In The Magnificent Seven, he was only a small part of the landscape, but that landscape was built from faces exactly like his: honest, rough, and believable. Flynn was played by Joseph Ruskin at the age of 36. Sharp-faced, tense, and carrying the look of a man who belonged in a dangerous town, Flynn added another hard edge to the film's western atmosphere. His presence helped fill the world around the Seven with men who seemed capable of trouble before a single shot was fired. Joseph Ruskin passed away in 2013 at the age of 89. Across a long career, he became a familiar character actor in film and television, especially for fans of Star Trek, where his distinctive voice and intense screen presence made him memorable across multiple appearances. Flynn may not be one of the central names in the story, but roles like his helped give the Magnificent Seven its texture. The film needed more than heroes and villains. It needed a whole frontier world full of suspicion, danger, and faces that looked like they had already seen too much. Chris Larrabee Adams was played by Yul Brynner at the age of 40. Calm, fearless, and impossible to read, Chris became the leader of the Seven without ever needing to raise his voice. Dressed in black and carrying himself with quiet command, he looked like a man who had seen every kind of danger and no longer wasted words on fear. Yul Brynner passed away in 1985, at the age of 65. Already famous for The King and I, he brought a different kind of authority to the Magnificent Seven, colder, leaner, and built for the Western frontier. His shaved head, sharp stare, and controlled presence made Chris one of the most visually unforgettable gunslingers of the era. Chris gave the film its backbone. He was not fighting for money in the end, and he was not chasing glory. He understood the cost of violence better than anyone, yet still chose to stand with the village. In a story about 7 men facing impossible odds, Brynner made leadership feel silent, lonely, and unshakable. These actors gave us courage, sacrifice, and one of the most unforgettable westerns in Hollywood history. Though all of them are gone, their legacy remains alive on screen. Thank you for watching, and subscribe for more classic cast then and now stories.